Good morning. This is Father Roland speaking to you this morning from Blessed Trinity Church in Orlando and offering you today Pastor's Notes number 5 during this pandemic of COVID-19. Well, the big news at Blessed Trinity this week rather, is pretty much the big news in the state of Florida. Is that most of the churches, if not all, are opening for a full schedule of masses. So here at Blessed Trinity, we will be having our Saturday 5 o'clock Mass, Sunday 8 o'clock in English, 10 o'clock, which will be live streamed in English, the 12 o'clock Spanish Mass, live streamed as well, and then Sunday at 5 in English, Saturday at 5 also in English. So this will be a big test for our people and for all of us here, having to implement the various recommendations and orders that have come to us from legitimate civil or church authorities. This is, as we talk about these things, it sounds very restrictive, and it is. They are restrictive. But please know that they are not punitive, and they are not capricious. It's not something that is just somebody's wild idea, certainly not mine. And what we're talking here is we're trying to be cooperative with the common good as defined both by the church and by the state. So please, here are the recommendations and new normal for Blessed Trinity weekend masses. Please come to the church through the main entrance. The side entrances will be used only for exit and for emergency. Please come through the main exits. Come, please, wearing a mask. The recommendation is that we all wear masks during the Mass. Now, the priest will not, when leading and speaking, because of the muffled sound, but for all the participants in the pews and the seats, please, hopefully you will all have a mask. Keeping, obviously, a safe distance from each other. We call this social distancing. You'll notice as you come into church that every other row is cordoned off, meaning that please use only the empty rows, and this will assure safe distance from the people front and back of you. Then on the aisles themselves, please use your judgment as to what 6 feet means. Now, this is not necessarily for every individual. A family unit, a couple count as one. So they're together, close by, another 6 feet to the next group. At the end, the dismissal of the Mass will be the actual distribution of Holy Communion. Just before that, we will have had the final blessing. We will have had the instructions of telling people, please leave and receive communion as you leave, beginning with the back row at the three doors of the inner church. And as you leave, you receive communion. Now there is a change we're making this weekend before we implement this new procedure for the Feast of Pentecost and for the subsequent Sundays. We will allow people, as they leave to receive communion, to also circle back in through another door, or avoiding as much as possible people that are receiving communion to come back into church to pray their thanksgiving, the 5 or 10 minutes post receiving communion. The point was very well made to me that, are not allowing that kind of tends to minimize the importance of the Eucharist. And we have to be mindful of the fact that the Blessed Sacrament is intact in our own bodies for at least 10 minutes after receiving the bread of life, after receiving the sacred host. So please know that you can come back in for your personal prayer and then depart at your own leisure. We ask you to please refrain as much as possible from walking around all over the church. The less motion and the less disturbance we make in the air, I think the safer we'll be. Now, we are told that we can only have 25% capacity in the church for the Mass. That means that 250 people will be allowed. We have 1,000 seats. Excuse me, 250 people will be allowed. If we discover we have an overflow crowd at the 10 o'clock Mass, which is the normal large Mass here at Blessed Trinity, we will have another Mass starting in the parish center at 10:15, so that nobody, hopefully, will be refused admission. I invite those of you who usually come to the 10 to maybe consider going to the 8 or to the Sunday, Saturday 5s as an alternative. We ask you to please follow the indications given by the ushers. Doors will close as soon as the Mass starts or as soon as we reach the capacity of 250 people. Now, obviously, there'll be no children's liturgy or nursery until further notice. Gatherings of such small groups in such tight quarters is very much discouraged. Palms will be available this Sunday. Yes, we blessed them 7 weeks ago on Palm Sunday. Then we put them in the fridge. Well, they'll be out on the tables this weekend. As you leave outside on the apron of the church, you will discover palms. Please serve yourself. Allowing, please, for just taking a couple fronds and not necessarily the whole branch. Thank you. Now, as regard to church support, that's always of interest to a pastor. You know how things are, how things work. As you enter the church through the center doors, you'll go by the baptismal font, and there will be baskets on either side of the baptismal font. The ideal would be for you to place your offering in a basket as you come into church. That will therefore obviate the need for you to move around later for any other reason. So please consider doing that. There'll be an usher on duty at those baskets. So please consider yourself, avail yourself of that opportunity. If you've missed the boat on the way in, you might consider making an offering on the way out. Of course, under all of these and above all of these methods would be the electronic fund transfers, EFTs, that have significantly increased at Blessed Trinity because of the pandemic. Well, now's the time that this begins to pay off because people won't have to worry or think about having to make an offering at each time they attend Mass. So it is. This is the story on the Pentecost Sunday. We will look back on this day as having been a day to return to our life-giving schedule of Masses that we have done for so many years without any break. Well, now this is back to reality. And I hope and pray that we'll find greater peace. I know I have, just being in the church building during these 2 weeks of daily Masses, 70, 80 people present, 50, 60. Well, now we'll expect a few more. I don't expect a large crowd. I think people are still very cautious and about coming and mixing with crowds. But I think we're trying to make the situation as safe and pleasant as possible. So thank you. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you for your prayerful support. I thank you for your financial support. And let us all embark on this new road together and create together the new normal. God bless you. God keep you. Until the next time. Have a safe day.